The 2025 coaching carousel is going absolutely bonkers right now, and I honestly don't have time to cover each individual hire, so we're going to conglomerate some of these coaching hires into one video, as we're going to talk about the 5 crucial hires that happened in the last 24 hours, in Bob Chesney to UCLA, Pat Fitzgerald to Michigan State, Ryan Silverfield to Arkansas, Alex Golesh to Auburn, and Pete Golding remaining at Ole Miss. All 5 of these hires are significant for the college football world, and we're going to talk about who these guys are, how they got there, and how good I think they can be. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's go ahead and get started and talk about these crazy coaching hires. Okay, so the first one that I want to talk about is Pete Golding. We have all heard the Lane Kiffin news by now, as he decided to bolt from Ole Miss to LSU. I don't need to talk about it. Defensive coordinator Pete Golding is now named the 40th head coach in Ole Miss history, and he will also be tasked with guiding the Rebels through a college football playoff berth, if in fact they get selected. Golding will take over after a brilliant career as a defensive coordinator, and this will be his first time being a head coach. If you're an SEC fan, you've been hearing about Golding for quite some time. So far, he has dominated during his time at Ole Miss, as he came to Oxford in 2023, and he has already mentored 8 NFL draft picks. He has nearly 2 decades of defensive coaching experience, and as many of you guys remember, he was the DC for Nick Saban in Alabama for a while. He was with the Tide from 2018 to 2022, and they ended up winning SEC titles in 2018, 2020, and 2021, as well as a national title in 2020. In 5 years leading the Crimson Tide defense, Alabama would rank top 20 in the FBS in scoring defense every year, and top 10 in either scoring or total defense 4 times. Golding knows his way around the SEC. He was a really good defensive coordinator for UTSA, as the Roadrunners ranked 7th in the FBS with just 287 yards per game. The Ole Miss AD said, quote, "Coach Kiffin and I met yesterday, and he informed us that he is accepting the head coaching position at another school. For our program to begin preparing for its future, both short and long term, he will be stepping away, and with this development, we could not be more excited to announce Pete Golding as the next head coach of the Ole Miss Rebels. I gotta be honest, given the circumstances, I don't think it's a bad hire, but I'm not sure if Pete Golding has the ceiling to make them a title contender. I'm definitely in full support of him being the head coach though, but what do you guys think, Ole Miss fans?" The second coach I want to talk about is Ryan Silverfield. He is now the new head coach for the Arkansas Razorbacks, and the 45-year-old will be taking over in Fayetteville after a 2-10 season. They'd end up firing head coach Sam Pittman, and Silverfield will get a 5-year, $33.5 million deal. He's a familiar name to college football fans. He ended up going 50-25 while he was at Memphis, and he would even beat the Razorbacks this September, and has 4 consecutive wins against Power 4 opponents, including West Virginia and Iowa State in bowl games. Sam Pittman was fired on September 28th after a 2-3 start and the downward trajectory of the program, and Silverfield is pumped to get here. Their AD said, quote, "It became clear during our conversations that Coach Silverfield shares our vision of making the college football playoff and competing for a national championship." Silverfield had been at Memphis since 2016 and was promoted to head coach in 2019 after Mike Norvell left for Florida State. He coached Memphis in the Cotton Bowl that year and won 8 or more games in 4 of his 6 years with the Tigers. While Memphis went 8-4 this year, he had posted back-to-back seasons with double-digit wins, but this year was a bit disappointing. They started out 6-0, and they were in the driver's seat to earn a Group of 5 bid to the playoff, but they were upset by UAB before losing their final 3 games of the season. That is cause for concern. Based on numerous reports, Silverfield was lower on the Arkansas pecking order, as they wanted Rhett Lashley, who was an alum, and they also targeted James Franklin and Eric Morris. There's also the false rumor of Alex Golesh becoming the head coach at Arkansas, but no matter what, I still think Silverfield is a decent coach. Also, there was apparently some sort of protest for it, but I'm not sure how that went. There might have been like 10 people there. Memphis posted 29 wins over the last 3 years, which is good for top 15 in the country, and this team also got to a bowl game again, extending the program's streak to 12 straight years of making a bowl, the longest amongst non-Power 4 teams. And I think Silverfield is a good coach, but like Golding, I'm not sure how high his ceiling is. The third coach I want to talk about is Pat Fitzgerald's return to college football coaching at Michigan State. Jonathan Smith was fired after going 9-15 in 2 years, and going back in time, Pat was an All-Big Ten linebacker at Northwestern and was even an All-American. He was a pretty insane football player, and he would go immediately into coaching, and after Randy Walker died of a heart attack, he would take over as the head coach in 2006. He ended up going 110-101 over 17 years at Northwestern, and he spent his entire time as a head coach with the Wildcats. If you're not familiar with Northwestern, they are not very good historically, and he was quite impressive there. But in 2023, he was fired due to a quote-unquote hazing scandal at the school, and honestly, I don't even know what to believe. I know at the time there was mixed opinions on the matter, but Northwestern and Fitzgerald would eventually settle out of court for an undisclosed amount, and he was, quote, incredibly upset and saddened by the news. Again, I don't really know what actually happened there. Michigan State is also currently in hot water as they were hit with NCAA sanctions earlier this fall that occurred under Mel Tucker. They ended up receiving a 3-year show cause penalty for failing to monitor the program and the 2 staff members that apparently had the issues. Another thing to watch out for, though, is that Fitzgerald was starting to fall off. He went 4-20 in his final 2 years in Evanston, but earlier this month, he told ESPN that he was ready to get back to coaching after a 2-year hiatus. One thing is for certain, though, is that Fitzgerald is a proven winner, as Northwestern got to 10 bowl games in 17 years, he knows how to recruit the Midwest, and understands the landscape of the Big Ten. He's a hard-nosed, defensive-minded guy who does more with less and develops talent. To many, it sounds like a good fit at Michigan State. And another interesting note is that he was able to find this talent even with Northwestern's crazy high academic requirements. Either way, this is in the same category as both Silverfield and Golding, as I think it's just an average hire. I don't think it's amazing, and I don't think it's bad. Our 4th hire we're going to go ahead and talk about is Bob Chesney to UCLA. I'm not 100% certain that it is done yet, but at the time of recording this, it seems to be what is going on. Chesney has been a prodigy-like coach for a long time. He was apparently always coaching kids even when he was a kid himself, and started coaching college football at Assumption. He went 44-16 while he was there, and then while being the head coach at Sally Regina, he went 23-9. After that, he'd take over at Holy Cross, which is an FCS school, and he would go 44-21 over 6 years there. He led the Crusaders to the playoffs in 4 of those 6 seasons. So far, he's done a tremendous job, as currently the Dukes are 11-1 this year with a loss to Louisville, and they have a chance at a berth in the college football playoff. He's reportedly going to coach in the Sun Belt game against Troy, and will remain with the team if they make the playoff, but after that, he is set to have a 5-year deal to become the UCLA head coach. At 48, he has quickly risen up the coaching ranks, emerging as one of the best coaches at the D2 and FCS level, and now at the FBS level. He's gone 20-5 in 2 years at JMU, and with everybody having Curt Cignetti fever, it makes sense that people want Chesney as well. UCLA, though, has struggled to find its footing in the Big Ten, as they went 3-9 this year and fired Deshaun Foster after 3 games. Last season, they went 5-7 under Foster, and this came after Chip Kelly decided to leave. Chesney has gone 131-51 during his coaching tenure, with just 1 losing season across 16 years. He's also led the Dukes to the 17th best offense in the country and the 11th best defense. On offense, he typically runs a dual-threat playbook, which is why Alonzo Barrett III has 17 touchdowns through the air and 12 on the ground. Defensively, they like to blitz and be aggressive, and they hold teams to just 2.8 yards a carry and 4.7 yards per play, ranking 5th and 7th in the nation. Chesney has been a head coach at 4 very different environments, but UCLA might be the most challenging. They currently don't have great NIL, great resources, or great fan support, and it's also harder to compete in the Big Ten than it is in the Sun Belt. He personally was my favorite coach, but because he's going to UCLA, I don't think it's going to be a home run hire. I think he would have been better off at Virginia Tech or Penn State. And finally, we get to the best hire, and that was Alex Golesh going over to Auburn. He was named the 33rd head coach in program history after 3 incredible years at USF. Honestly, his story is pretty insane, as Golesh was actually born in Moscow, Russia, and then was raised in Brooklyn and the state of Ohio before going to Ohio State. He quickly got into coaching, and once he got to USF, he rebuilt the program. They got 23 wins over the last 3 years, including a 9-3 record in 2025. Prior to his time in Tampa, the Bulls had won just 4 games over the previous 3 years. Jeff Scott was a disaster. They went from 1-11 to 7-6, and then winning a game 45-0 over Syracuse, which was the largest shutout victory in NCAA Bowl history. Auburn's AD said, quote, "Alex is known nationally for his player development prowess, ability to shape creative and explosive offenses, and his relentless approach to building winning programs. I was also struck by his coaching experience on both sides of the ball. He has been incredible in terms of offense, as USF is averaging more than 35 points per game and 450 yards per game during his time there. This year, USF's offense ranks number 2 in total offense, number 5 in scoring, and he has posted 500 plus yards in 8 of his last 9 games. Golesh is excited to get to the Plains. Auburn has won, can win, and will win championships. In 2025, USF returned to the polls for the first time since 2018, and they also started out with wins over Boise State and Florida, and that was huge. Before that, though, he was the offensive coordinator at Tennessee and helped reshape that Tennessee offense, and he was also at UCF with Josh Heupel before that. Across his career, Golesh has coached 14 bowl teams and has sent multiple players to the NFL. At one time, he was rumored to be the head coach at Arkansas, but after some role went to Florida, it sounds like Auburn upped the offer and got Golesh to sign the papers. Unfortunately for Auburn fans, they've now had 5 straight losing seasons, something that had not been done at Auburn in 70 years, and Golesh will be tasked with rebuilding things. I think this was the best hire of the bunch. But what do you guys think? If you're a fan of one of these 5 schools, what do you think of the hire? How do you think the new coach will do? And what other topics should I take a look at next? Be sure to let me know down below, leave a like if you support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out one of the videos on the end screen. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.